And welcome back to Niaga AWANI. We are live from the Convention Centre Kuala Lumpur, bringing you live updates about the KL2024 Summit and talking about the KL20 Summit 2024 commencing today at the Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre marks a pivotal moment in Malaysia's journey to be among the top 20 global startups by 2030 and solidifies Malaysia's position as a premier destination for startups and even venture capitalists. And the two-day summit will unveil the KL20 action proper to be launched by Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim today, a roadmap outlining reforms to achieve a convergence among key stakeholders to propel Malaysia's startup technology sector to even new heights. And one of today's highlights include the signing ceremony for the Malaysian Semiconductor Accelerator and Integrated Circuit IC Design Park with Selangor Hub with partners including the ARM Limited, Pfizer Malaysia and even Skychip and the Shenzhen Semiconductor Industry Association. And that's a little bit highlight about the first day of KL20 Summit 2024. And I'm with one more guest with me here at Convention Centre Kuala Lumpur. And I'm going to welcome you, Raja Hamzah Abidin, the founder RHL Ventures. I want to say thank you very much, Hamzah, for joining me in the morning. And we have a few more minutes before the launching of KL20 Summit 2024 for its first day and one of the first and biggest launch for an event that focusing on how to propel the startup ecosystem in Malaysia moving forward. And firstly, talking about you as the founder of RHL Ventures, how is RHL Ventures strategically aligning its investment to support the KL20 Summit's vision of elevating Kuala Lumpur into a top global startup by, we can say, in 6 years, 2030?
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining Awani. I think for myself, as the founder of RHL Ventures, been running for about 7 years, investing in startups in Malaysia and also across Southeast Asia. And with our key partners, including the likes of Ministry of Finance, Penjana Capital, which is an investor in us, and also with some of the supporting ministries like MITI, like MOSTI, and also Kementerian Economy, we strive to create a better ecosystem by linking the dots, by bringing more investors to the table to understand Malaysia, and also to bring global players, whether it's startups, VCs, and sovereign wealth funds into Malaysia and to crowd in more capital to invest.
Okay, sorry, doing the arrangement of this, can look at me. In what ways can we leverage in extensive network and expertise to bridge the gap between the early stage startups and the later stage growth are contributing to the Malaysia startup ecosystem growth?
So I believe an early stage approach and a late stage approach is slightly different.
Okay.
An early stage approach is backing founders of an idea and backing their execution from an early stage, meaning that there's less numbers and less traction, but actually there's a lot more focus on the founder's ability. An example is a company that I invested in called Kopiku recently. They do coffee as a service. They've invested and also expanded to more than 10 outlets in a matter of 6 months. And recently, they've crowded in Vertex, which is a fund linked to Temasek and based out of Singapore. So again, early stage is about crowding in investors quickly and scaling up quickly. At the growth stage, the expectations of investors are a bit different. Okay, investors want a lot more traction, and they want larger ticket sizes as well. What that means is that usually you have to bring in more regional investors and also global investors to the table. That's why I feel what KL20 is trying to do, which is in terms of bringing more investors to the table, more VCs, more sovereign wealth funds to the table, is an important component to what the government and also what the ecosystem wants to achieve moving forward.
And talking about coffee, we may need it in the morning, definitely, for the forum to begin. And talking about how is RHL Venture collaborating with key stakeholders, like including government initiatives and the industry players, and even to reform the outline of KL20 Summit, action proper and propel the Malaysian startup ecosystem.
So I give you a quick example. Diving into the topic you mentioned earlier, semiconductors. Okay, we've had probably 3-4 trips to Penang already. And then we've also had trips to Korea, Taiwan and China, and this is all supported by MIDA. And MIDA has made introductions to key component players, which is all feeding into the national semiconductor roadmap that PM spoke about a couple of days ago. What this means is that it's no longer different agencies working through themselves, right? Us as ecosystem players as private sector players, are also involved in linking up the dots, bringing a mix of capital providers to the table, but also startups to the table to benefit from that. And for us, as a venture capital fund, we will look to invest in the best startups that target that sector. So number one, I mentioned earlier, semiconductors. I think that's a big key area where we are spending time on, because we believe Malaysia has an edge. We have a huge market share in the OSAT space, but we want to expand into higher end fabrication and the higher end of value chain. But at the same time, there's a few other sectors that we think to do well, like Islamic fintech. We invested in an Indonesian company that we are bringing to Malaysia, and they are one of the largest Sharia digital banks in Indonesia. So again, the crowding in of ideas is important as well. I mentioned capital, crowding in of ideas from the best executors from overseas, merging them with local execution and creating strong investment outcomes for someone like us.
And interesting to see how RHL adapt the strategies, investment strategies, and even the criteria to navigate to the rapidly evolving technology landscape and even the market dynamics that as emphasized by the KL20 Summit goal.
So I think in investments, we've got to be very flexible, and we've got to be very focused on returning capital to investors. If you look 2 years ago, everyone was chasing super fast growth, and everyone was chasing quick returns. But now the focus is a lot more on sustainability, about creating profits. So that's why investors are also a bit more willing to invest in hardware in terms of a longer return cycle, but in the end, creating profits for investors. What's key for us is, I think, for Southeast Asian VC investors, the exit environment needs to improve. And exits in the form of IPOs, I think, will still continue to improve as we speak. Bursa itself has announced, I think, 40 plus IPOs that they're talking about this year. And I think for our startups, we are bridging that gap between the market makers and also us, so they can help our startups list and create more liquidity in the ecosystem. Liquidity is a necessary thing for everyone to make money together.
From the investment, equity, equitability, talking about investment is very important. It's like a long-term investment for building a better and secure future. And in the light of KL20, focus on inclusivity and diversity, and how can we ensure that the investment portfolio reflects this value and even promotes equitable opportunities for all entrepreneurs?
So how I see, the market in venture and SMEs and startups are pretty fair. If you have a good idea, potentially it'll get executed and that grows accordingly. But at the same time, I believe the government is focused on a lot of accelerator programs, whether it's like plug and play, Antler, and all these players coming to the table, which means that there are actually more opportunities for people to branch out, to come up and start their own business in a very fair way and in a very equitable way to build businesses. What that means is that you don't have to be from a privileged background to start a startup. You can be from any background as long as you have a strong idea, strong execution, and a strong vision. And there are enough capital providers now versus even 2-3 years ago to fund that gap. Back to your point, like what is the ministry trying to achieve? I think that feedback loop is important, right? We used to focus on certain segments of the ecosystem, but it's early stage. At time we do, growth is the gap. But now actually the gap is the whole wheel, right? So it means we got to fix the wheel before it can happen. So if all the players here today contribute in their own way and contribute as per what they're supposed to do, I believe it provides a much stronger breeding ground for the ecosystem moving forward.
And we are together, and definitely sometimes we have a different agenda, but we need to align it in one big agenda. And can we say, how does, from your experience and your whole journey, how RHL play a very important role in fostering innovations and entrepreneurship through mentorship, strategic guidance, and even operational support to help startup realize their full potential in this 2 days event?
Okay, I think number one, in terms of ecosystem development, we believe there's two parts of the ecosystem. One is, the SME startups, and one is the VC itself. We provide internship opportunities, so people who want to access VC opportunities are there on the table, and there's always a funnel there. Number two, in terms of helping the startups, we have a value creation team, where we help them in terms of corporate introductions, with capital raising, with hiring. So I think it's a whole gamut of activities that we help a startup on, and we help them scale and grow. Obviously, helping them in fundraising is a big part of that, and where we help with them with multiple levels of fundraising so that they can create future opportunities for themselves and to grow to a certain scale. So all in all, I would say the approach is very flexible. Certain startups need different things, but in all, we as venture capitalists, together with government, work very closely to help groom the startups. And for us, we believe that, yes, we want a lot of unicorns, but again, even if they reach $100, $200 million outcomes, it's actually a win-win for everyone.
Okay.
And we all can work together to achieve that goal.
And how can we focus on the development of Malaysia's startup ecosystem more into the infrastructures, as you share about the talent development and market success and regulatory frameworks, and all of this support the ambitious goals set by the KL20 summit. As from RHL, how?
From RHL, in my perspective, I believe the key part now is execution, right? So again, I think there's a lot of buzz of this conference, but the key part is what are the follow-on steps after it? Do we have the investors? Are they really investing here? Can we monitor that? The startups, how are we monitoring their traction? How do we help them grow? Again, money is, if it's just Malaysian money, it's not enough to grow the ecosystem. We need to crowd in regional money, money, and global talent to help us grow. And Malaysia, as a country that's dependent on trade, will have to depend on both our smarts and also leveraging the right partners to grow. So again, I believe that we cannot be alone in this. Whether it's government, private sector, external parties, we all got to work together to make this a success.
And this is what's happening now with Hamzah is being a part from the KL20 summit that will be held for 2 days in Convention Kuala Lumpur. Maybe you can share with us, lastly, what is your future plans, collaborations, and even what do you hope for of being a part of the ecosystem from the infrastructure, from the industry player, and from the investment? What is your hope moving forward?
I think my hope moving forward is we execute on the stuff we speak about, meaning that there's a lot of announcements that are going to happen next few days. But I believe with the help of my friends in all the different ministries, we can push this forward. If you see about the name of attendees, the list of attendees, Malaysia is a hub. But again, how do we actually produce results? And how do we actually promote growth for the man on the street and provide more employment opportunities? Simple as that. If everyone benefits, the ecosystem will grow. If it's just a group of people benefit, it won't grow by itself. So again, the focus is execute, and grow the ecosystem.
Right, that is the aspiration, ambition. I would say thank you very much to Raja Hamzah Abidin, the founder of RHL Ventures. Definitely, it will be good to speak to you again soon. I'll see you in a bit.
Thank you, Nina.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
All right, that is all for the share at Convention Centre Kuala Lumpur, within a few of the speakers talking about how is the focus on focusing on the startup ecosystem. How can we propel the startup ecosystem within the Malaysia, from the infrastructure, from the talent pool development, and even talking about the investment. And next, stay with us. You will be with our colleagues Harith Ashraf. Niaga AWANI will be right back.